Welcome to Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences, a podcast featuring families who have navigated the challenges of dementia. Through heartfelt stories, we will delve into trials, triumphs, and wisdom gained along the way. My name is Christiana. I'm a registered nurse, dementia advocate, children's author specializing in dementia education, memory care specialist, owner of reputable memory care facilities in Toronto, Canada, as well as the founder of a Roosevelt Grammar Wellness Hub, a charitable organization that caters to the needs of communities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Joining me today is a highly respected church leader and an incredible and devoted son, and I have the privilege of calling him a friend. Please join me in welcoming Bishop Joel Thomas to this inspiring episode of Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences. I first met Bishop Thomas through a referral from Dr. J.E. Lessard, a geriatrician in Toronto, specializing in dementia care, when he was referred to our day program at Alexis Lodge for his lovely mother from 2007 to 2008. Mother Thomas was a beautiful and dignified lady, soft-spoken and very pleasant. I still remember her well, with her black hat and beautiful smile. Bishop Thomas is an internationally recognized ecclesiastical teacher and leader, family dementia caregiver coach, and author. Originally from Guyana, he pastors Word of Life Church in Toronto, Canada, where he resides. Bishop Thomas has traveled to more than 25 nations, preaching, teaching, training leaders, and providing oversight to bishops and ministries. His book, My Silver-Haired Child, When a Parent Becomes a Dependent as a Result of Dementia, reflects his dedication to supporting families navigating the challenges of dementia caregiving. Welcome, Bishop. I'm so glad you were able to take time off your busy schedule to join me this morning.
It's a pleasure for us. I want to commend you on all the great work that you have been doing and the success you've been having and the accolades, and I've seen it, and you continue to actually go down that path. So I commend you and I say continue. So it's a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, so I have a few questions for you because you're an exemplary caregiver. I'm just wondering if you can talk to us about your experiences caring for your lovely mother.
All right. Yes, first and foremost, when you think of caregiving, it's not something I had ever anticipated I'd be responsible for. And I say that because there might be many of your listeners who are listening today who caregiving has just probably automatically entrusted upon them. That diagnosis came, just suddenly, and they found themselves in that place of responsibility for their loved ones. So for that, I'm from a large family of 8. I happen to be the one that was there because I had a lot of control of my time and a lot of factors favorable for me to really offer my mom the care that she deserved. My mom has always been a caring person, and she's cared for so many people, family members, non-family members. So I never thought one day I'll be that person offering her that kind of care in the last days of her life. But it was a pleasure because she was just a joy and a pleasant person to actually care for.
That is awesome. They often say when someone is diagnosed with dementia, what the doctor does not tell you is that you are in for a rough ride, fasten your seatbelt. Yes, it's sort of like a dual diagnosis for the loved one as well as for the individual. So what were the things that actually drew your attention to the fact that something may be wrong with your mother, please?
When my mom came to live with us at the time, my wife and I, Uh, we observe immediately upon her, actually the next early morning in the first day of arrival, that she was pretty up 2 in the morning, and she was just going searching, which is pretty unusual for her. And she's going through all these things, searching and inquiring what she's searching for, and just trying to assure her that whatever she was searching for, it was really was her jewelry. And well, you know what, he didn't come with it because we told that she wouldn't be having it. But can trying to communicate to her at that point in time was something that didn't register to her and didn't register with us. But okay, this is just a normal procedure. But we find that pattern continued, and there's always this up at a certain time searching for things, and in that process, she's not unable to communicate exactly what she's searching for. And so when I went into her and I said, you know what? What are you searching for? Is it your ring? She said, yes. I said, well, the rings didn't come here. And then she kind of responded very harsh, which I've never heard my mom spoke like that. So that got my attention because my mom always had her words are pleasant. So when she responded very harshly, okay, that got my attention, and I said, okay, there's something wrong here. Meanwhile, the other siblings who she had visited over the period of time had seen some indicators, but we weren't able to actually put our finger. Well, this is just most of the times this is just aging, so to speak. And so that was the first sign of this continuous searching, looking for things early in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, and those. So that really got my attention, and something is not right.
So then you decided to take her to the doctor to maybe get some answers.
Right. Yeah, from there, we knew we took her to Dr. Lizard. We got referred, being the geriatric and a specialist in that particular area. And from that point, Dr. Lizard had indicated that, okay, through the test that she conducted, that, you know, your mom had dementia. Now, that's still new to me because I'm not really understanding what that entails. And so he heard it, accepted it, but still didn't really allow it to register what really is happening here. Because with someone with dementia, externally they can look all fine. It's not, I mean, for someone who, because my mom had never been sick in all her life. So there's no external, indicators apart from this aspect of her just, well, okay, I'm unable, just searching and would respond to you. There are no indicators in the eyes as yet, nothing. This is the early onset.
Yeah.
So, and you knew her healthy, so you're trying to reconcile what's happening here. It's not she's bedridden. There's no, you're not seeing no symptoms to understand what the disease is all about. And so, but the searching and that restlessness that was indicative in the early mornings was a symptom, but you're still not registering. Okay, she's going to think about that and it's going to pass.
Yeah,
and so
early
that was how.
Yeah. Early diagnosis is really very tricky because 1 minute she's perfectly normal, and then you
Exactly.
think the doctor may have misdiagnosed her, and then
Yeah.
suddenly something changes that gets your attention again.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what would you say were some of the challenges you had to deal with having this diagnosis of dementia in your family?
First and foremost, after I saw this, I'm a person given to a lot of education. I'm a research-oriented person. That's how my mind operates. And so I went back to Dr. Lizard. I made an appointment and I said, I need to know about this dementia. What is it all about? So we probably spent about 3 hours and I was taught because one of the things after the searching, you start to see a little bit of forgetfulness and well, I left something here and my inability to understand how to relate to that, well, no, you didn't leave it there, and that would create a little conflict because she believed she had left something there, and I'm saying that you didn't leave it, and I didn't know how to. So I really went into the process of education, learning about dementia. So my first education was about, I think, about 3 hours with Dr. Lizard to really understand it, and from that point, I studied it, and I'm not only from caregiving, but from the actually scientific point of view, and understand the different forms of dementia, understand she had this particular aspect of it. So I'm always what I should say reduced a lot of my conflict because now I'm coming to care for my mom with knowledge. And I really recommend that to all your listeners who might be in that community. Educate yourself about the dementia and the offshoots and the symptoms, so you would actually know. Because over my years, and we're talking about now so many years of passing it, I've had an opportunity to counsel many people informally, flying near to them, sitting there, oh yeah, my family, and how do you deal with that? And I am able to pass on that knowledge in very informal ways that was really helpful. So I'm a strong advocate of knowledge in terms of, and so in reference to the question is now, my communication with my mom is much more simple and easier. So okay, I've forgotten something here. Okay, no problem. Let me help you look for it. That diffuses the challenges. That diffuses, so I'm learning and I'm reading and I'm understanding. So I would say that was I had one big challenge in it, and in really. And that's the only part for me was very fearful in it, and that part is like, let them get the book and they'll find that part out. But but in it, that was my biggest fear, and I had to learn how to overcome that and move the process forward. But you want to know what the part is? It's in the book, and I've
Cool.
indicated.
Yeah. So the thing is, you raised a lot of points. I first want to address Dr. Lasad. I mean, I don't know any other doctor that will sit with you for 3 hours explaining a disease condition to you.
That's true.
I barely spend 5 minutes in my doctor's office. So she is such a strong dementia advocate. She just wants the best for her patients and their families. And then you mentioned I think it's a little me now. Something else you mentioned, like the whole concept of dealing with that person and the fear, and also yeah, I think now I get what I'm trying to get at. You mentioned learning, educating yourself about this disease. I strongly, you know, advise people to do that. I talk about that a lot. They say a problem known is half solved. When you know what you are dealing with, because there are many facets of dementia, it causes family rifts. People end up never speaking with their loved ones until they pass away and stuff like that. It is so important to educate yourself. Don't wait for someone to do it for you. If you know what you are dealing with, it makes it a lot easier, and it relieves some of the stress that you will feel when your mother is doing something really strange. It's like, instead of taking offense, if you know it's a disease, then you're able to cope with it much more better. And that is the whole essence for this podcast, for people to learn from you, just like you are telling now, sharing your experiences. So emotionally, it's very, very difficult. So how did you cope with the challenges emotionally for the care of your mom?
Okay, two things from an aspect. Let me go back a little to really speak highly of Dr. Lizard first and
Yeah,
foremost, because
sure.
she's the person who forwarded my book as well and
Mhm.
really recommended communication in many other forms. And so I'm always an advocate for finding that healthcare professional who can actually lead you down the path correctly. Uh, in the caregiving aspect, there are two dimensions of it. Those who care is entrusted upon them, and those who cared for willingly or took on that challenge. And in a great degree of times, in the females in the family, care is automatically entrusted upon them, is expected for them as a female to care. And so that can create a higher level of emotions of concern because it wasn't their choice. In my case, it was my choice. So I didn't approach it with any inhibitions. And I'm getting an opportunity here for to take care of the woman who have nurtured us, impart my foundation spiritually, all that I have. I got it from her. My mom was an educator. She had her own school. So that's what she did, basically in Guyana. So here am I looking at that. So if you're caring for your loved one, and to some one of your listeners who might think this was entrusted upon me, then that person comes to care with a level of kind of anger. Didn't It's like I didn't get to. I wasn't considered my choice. I had no choice in this. I didn't get a chance to choose, and there are lots of people who are facing that. So the anger level, the impatience level, those factors are higher. And most times when you choose to care, and those who choose to care happen most of the time to be males.
Yeah.
And when we choose to care, then we come to it in from a whole different aspect of really understanding that we are looking to do something that is really imparting value to that person's life. So for me personally, the level of emotions was pretty much because I had one, it was my choice. And so I didn't pass it on to my wife at that point in time. And secondly, since also I was knowledgeable because I'd met Dr. Lazard and I'm reading, I'm learning. So my emotions, so I understood as a dementia, person with dementia, there could be moments, there could be different times. So I'm learning and I'm very much observing because as I'm caring, I'm looking to see when behaviors are changing, what's happening. So because and I could communicate this to Dr. Lisnard and okay, and if there's a medication given, is this medication changing the person's behavior? What's happening? So for me, it was learning at the same time. So my emotional level was pretty low in terms of there. And then next, what happened, because I was a part of a church, I had people who just came in willingly, and I had a support factor who said, you know what, Bishop, you take some time off. My siblings will come take some time off. We'll definitely take this day or take this time or take this weekend. And so that to me reduced that whole aspect of stress, knowing that because any person out there who's your audience who don't have a support factor, that is going to be most challenging. But however, your business venture offers that support in that term so that someone can have a week away from that scenario, but they need that because sometimes what happens, Christiana, is that we still see that person as whole, well, everything else, and we still want to communicate and interact with them, that nothing is really wrong with you. So why are you giving me all these problems?
Yeah.
And that creates a challenge.
Yes, it is, especially again, beginning to messages where the person may be so good, and then when they start to act up or exhibit behaviors, people think they are doing it intentionally to hurt them, right? And that is where that lack of forgiveness comes from for a lot of families, that are family caregivers that become hurt because of their loved ones' behaviors. And so one of the things I also encourage people to do is to forgive freely. Someone with dementia is not trying intentionally to hurt you. They're not intentionally being difficult. They are actually experiencing difficulty, So we need to be patient. We need to be understanding and forgiving. And actually, my next question would be, I think you more or less answered it. We come from a culture where we are very close-lipped. Our cultures are like that. We don't want to talk about, because of stigma about chronic diseases. But you mentioned your church congregants coming to help you. So I was going to ask you, were you able to freely share of your mother's condition, or were you, I think you've more or less answered that, were you hiding it? So if you can speak on that and the importance of community.
Okay. One of the challenges that we have in developing cultures, in developing countries and the cultures, that we're not knowledgeable about diseases.
Yeah.
So when a disease of the like dementia comes in, the first category place that is insanity. And because we place it in that category, then it becomes a stigma, because we never want anyone to believe that we have someone in our one of our family members or a parent or someone that has that mental is insane. And so because we weren't educated, we kind of we live in a sense of denial, and we never position ourselves to be knowledgeable or educated to understand this has nothing to do with insanity. And so out of changing from that, and in a culture like Canada and developing countries, you understand that, okay, it's a part of life. Things can happen. Like I said, I've never known my mom sick one day in her life. So now here is something coming. What's that? What's strange? So here's the diagnosis. Okay, what's the cause of this diagnosis? X, Y, and Z. Oh, all this brain issues and all that goes with it. And so we're able to in this culture here say, here it happens. This is what has happened. We are knowledgeable. We are more informed. We are seeing it, and then we can slowly transition from that stigmatic culture and start to acknowledge we have a problem, and then we start to address the problem. And you mentioned something earlier, which I want to go back to some, because then caring a caregiver, sometimes it creates conflict in a family, and family members have conflict, predisposed to no longer communication, and I'm an advocate that whoever is taking care of that parent or that person has that legal full power of attorney if they're capable of operating that level. So they can make the decisions against having an infiltration, or if there's a strong community together, that also can work. But when there's diversity of information coming from all parts, with people not being in that scenario, it creates a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
When someone who's not in the day-to-day care and they feel they can just walk in and decide how everything should be, then always no, that's a recipe for confusion and conflict. And so the culture will create a possibility of all those things. Let's sit down, talk together. You're the person here. I will make all of these decisions. I will inform you. But if we're going to have a multiple of individuals wanting to make decisions, that is not going to go down well. So I come back to what you were saying. For me, it was not anything hidden to say, well, okay, I'm going to just try to avoid anyone having knowledge of this. No, my life was too globally interactive for me to sit down and try to hide my mom in any locality where I can take her. I took her with me because I understood that was my responsibility, and so for me, on that level, is like, okay, there's not something that she brought on herself. This was not something that is, created anyhow. This was something just happened. And like I said, knowledge is always important to actually navigate through the process.
Yes, that is true. So I was going to ask that, as a very busy man, how you found time, but you just mentioned that you took your mom with you when you were out sometimes, so that must have helped. And you
It
did say that you had more flexibility amongst your siblings, and that's why
right.
you took on that responsibility. Um, I want to ask you also, were there, specific support system or, resources that played a vital role in your caregiving journey?
Yes. Again, I'm going to say to that individual, whether it could be uh, a church group, if you're part of that, you may not be a part of it. It could be a community, it could be family members, but it's absolutely necessary that that caregiver, he or she, they have that support personnel so that they can go away, they can get breaks, they can get time away from actually the day-to-day responsibility of caregiving. And so when I recognize that I have my mom here with me, I've made this decision and I have international obligations, then
Mm-hmm.
I set that scenario, I created that environment that if I'm away, you know, I always remember once, and probably you'll know this you will hear this for the first time because you didn't know. My mom was at Your Day program, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there was something happening in terms of her body and a virus, and you called me and said, come and get your mom. When you called me, I was in South Africa, boarding a plane to fly to Australia, and I had left my sister in charge of everything, but I was the main contact. So right away, I'm on going on board to fly to Australia now. And so right away, I had to pick up a phone, call, and because my network knew right away, I could have had that problem resolved without no one aware of what was actually transpiring. And so you want to have people, one, you can depend upon, people who are willing to help you because you've been there for them too. So, so they're like, listen, you can count on me. And the beauty of it is that what I enjoyed wasn't even upon request of individuals. I set up environments where, okay, like Your Day program, yes, it could be here, but there might be overnight programs or different times or wherever. And because I always try to keep, and that's one of the benefits, and you are much more knowledgeable, if you can keep your loved one in a familiar environment all the time, it's helpful, so they can remain at least less confusion. So in those places, I had people who came in and said, listen, I can help. So whether it's Your Day program, whether it's someone who will do something in the evening, whether it's here who will pick up. So all those things. And when I got back, I'm like, okay, I'm back on duty. So in that premise, so you want to have that, and like again, it wasn't something that I requested of individuals. Individuals said, "Listen, we want to help." They knew my mom. That is so you must have that, and even if you have the so now. Once you have the financial capabilities, there are day programs that you can just spend a week on and find that break. There's someone you can do if you can bring into whatever you need to do. You need to give yourself that opportunity. And one of the things I could probably mention is that one of the things I have done, I've started an online business, be a part of a business in personal development that will bring financial and emotional intelligence for individuals who are caregivers so they could work from their home, 4 or 5 hours a day, anytime they choose. And they can have that financial independence. But then the personal development side also deals with the emotional side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that when I was caring as a caregiver, because I know you have to balance that emotional side, because if you don't do that, it's going to come right out against that loved one who you're caring for and those around you. And also for individuals who are married, it's challenging because they now have to bring that parent or that loved one, whoever they came for, in their marriage, and they have to know how to balance that in their marriage. So that, because a lot of individuals, after they have cared for their parent or their loved one, and that person uh, no longer exists, or that person dies, let's put it that, let's clear that, then they find themselves isolated because their whole life was wrapped into that. Broken relationships, isolated, hurt, everything, and they just at a loss. So those factors need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, you raised a few points. I'll address the first part. Like caregiver stress is real. So
Yes,
if you are not getting a break, you're not asking for support, and you mentioned loneliness, sometimes it's not out of choice. When people have
yes,
dementia, they lose friends, families fall off, and it's a very lonely and challenging journey. And that is why I often say dementia is not an individual disease, it's a family disease. And as a
yeah,
matter of fact, it's a community disease. So the more we all know about dementia, the easier it is for us to support families that are navigating this very challenging and devastating journey. And that is why, like you wrote your book about caregiving and stuff, that's why I write children's books because everyone from, as young as elementary school age should know about the disease. I put in real life stories and I talk about family dynamics in my books. Because yes, if you are married and even if your parent is not living with you, you find that you're devoting a lot of time as a caregiver. That can strain your relationship
yes,
with your spouse or and even with your children. But when all hands are on board, it makes it easier. There's understanding, there's support, and you get that relief. So it is so important for us as a community and for families, let's all join hands together and make this easier, not just on the person that is living with dementia, but also for the family, our
yeah.
families as well. Just wanted to ask you, what is the one thing that you wish you had known while you were caregiving for your mom?
Hmm. What is the one thing? That's a very good question. I'm thinking, what would that be? Because at an early stage, it's like the first, and I don't have a long period of time to measure that because it didn't last long. But it's like initially understanding about this, what dementia was all about, and I really can't because as soon as I discovered what I did not know, I engaged myself immediately, and I felt what I initially came to caregiving is lack of knowledge. I was up for the task, but I didn't know what the task entailed,
Mm-hmm.
and all the factors, whether it's stress, finances, all so immediately I applied myself to rigorous learning because once I have that space taken care of knowledge, it helps me, and that's the only thing that's the most I could say. I think one of the things I probably would advocate say, I think looking back in hindsight, is if I understood really the what was a good online business during the time I'm caring. So even when I'm not traveling, because now my travel is not as frequent as before, so I have to remain there even I'm traveling occasionally. So where I would gone for a week, now I'm just these days, 2 days, 3 days, just to, and I can go to Africa and spend 3 days and turn back around and come back home to fulfill my appointments, which is kind of challenging. So if I had that understanding of there's a business opportunity that I can spend time with, earn, and so less time, because whilst I'm traveling there, I'm also concerned because I've cared for my mom for probably 4 years. Never one day under my care, missing or lost or got injured. And one aspect with someone, and she was missing. And that became her downfall. So you're thinking about that when you're away because you're there. The home it was secure. She was catered to, and all those factors. But I would say that would be the concern that I might have wished that home, the personal development site for my own emotions, even though I didn't have a lot. But because I said how I approach it, but now in hindsight, and I'm seeing what's happening today, because I post a lot of information on my LinkedIn page about dementia because I want people to understand it and really I'm given to help people to make their life and their journey much more simple.
Yeah. You have shared a lot of nuggets throughout this conversation. I thank you for that. And I just want to ask you if there are any more insights you think you can leave with our listeners.
I'm right now. I'm working on a book, and it's called 101 Tips of Dementia Caregiving, which I plan to share with the listeners for them to understand. But I would advocate on two things. First, uh, caregiver, your listeners who are caregivers, first take care of your emotional health, which can have a negative impact on your physical health, and it can have this ripple effect because if that person who's offering caregiving is not good for themselves, they can't offer the care for their loved one. And so it's essential that they spend some few minutes a day in some personal development to understand how to deal with their emotional challenges and really understand that. And for those who might be in a situation, uh, find some ways, find some online way where whilst you're caring, you can earn. And so your life is not only have evolved around that caregiving, there are other things that you can actually do so that after that period of time, you still could continue on and you're not continuing on with a broken, hurt, frustrated individual. You continue with a wholeness in terms of really moving forward. And those are some things I would really advocate and find that healthcare professional like yourself or some doctor who can really educate them how to respond and not to react because 90% of caregivers react instead of respond. And
Yeah.
that creates a
Yeah, burnout is real. And the way to avert that is self-care. So, as caregivers, like, you need to be a little bit selfish and put yourself first because if you have nothing to offer someone, you're doing them a disservice. So, I often like to encourage people to dust off their oxygen mask and put it on first, just like we
first.
hear on air travels. Put on
Yeah,
your own oxygen mask first before you're able to help someone else. Because if you're depleted, you can't give anything. You actually cause more problems for the individuals because you become frustrated, short fused, and it doesn't help anyone. So self-care is not an option, it's a
it's
necessity.
imperative.
So
Yeah.
on that note, I want to thank you so much, Bishop, for being here today. You've really, really enlightened us, and I wish you continued success in all your undertakings and keep writing those books. I wish you
Well,
all the best. Thank
well,
you.
well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you being here. Thanks for the invite. And anyway, if I could be of assistance, please let me know. In conclusion, I also in Benin City, you would know there. I have them kind of set up a program for people with dementia,
Okay.
which is kind of again culturally challenging
Yeah.
because in the culture you don't put your loved one in a home,
Yeah. No, that's
but
in Nigeria.
slowly
Benin City is in
yeah,
Nigeria.
yeah,
So,
Nigeria
yeah.
City, right. So, but slowly, because of the global integration, slowly that they're coming around, people are seeing it's not abandonment, but it's a necessity
Yeah.
for the care, and so they're starting to see good things happening at Church of God Mission in Benin City, Nigeria. So,
That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
good.
my mom used to go to Church of God Mission before she died.
All right.
So we
So,
Catholics, but she attended both churches, so I know
all
that.
right.
Well, yeah.
Well, once again,
Thank
thank you.
you. Yes, have a great day.
You too.
God bless.
Thanks.
Yeah.